Hello everyone. So today we'll be discussing a new topic, that is CSS positions property. In the box model, we uh, have a lot of properties that we use, and this CSS position property is one of the very important property, irrespective of whatever type of front end design you want to develop. This property will be used, but mostly since websites are usually made in boxes, so box property uses this position in most of the cases. Now let us come to the example. Now see here, this is one box, and in this box, this is written above the image. So here you can see uh, this. This is all done with the help of box property. So on box property as well as the positions property. So if we want to make any type of different types of boxes and with different types of captions over it, we use the box property. And in the box property, we use the position property. So I'll show you some examples here. What do we mean when we say the property, box property? So let us come to the theory part first, and then we'll look into some examples. The CSS position property defines the position of an element in the document, in the web document, I mean in the web page. This property works with the left, right, top, and bottom properties to determine the final position of an element on the web page. So the final position of an element on a web page where it will be displayed is controlled using the position property. The different types of positions are fixed position, sticky position, and relative absolute. That we will be discussing. There are some other positions property which can be taken up later. But today, what we have planned is to discuss the fixed property, sticky property, relative property, and absolute property. We'll see on the examples and try to understand these properties and how it is used. We say in the CSS class, position is absolute, or position is fixed, or position is relative, and then we give the top position, bottom position to fix it. The fixed property is used to fix a specific position, to fix any element in a specific position. A sticky property, it acts like a relatively positioned element until a certain scroll point, and then it acts like a fixed element. So I'll show you examples. And relative and absolute properties are used when we want one element inside another element. The outer element becomes relative, the inner elements becomes absolute, the container becomes the relative, and the content inside becomes the absolute. So I'll first show you examples of each of them, and then we'll come to the code. Let me come to the fixed property. We'll start with the example of fixed property. I'll show you what do we mean by the fixed property, then we'll come to the code. See here, in this web page, we scroll up and down, but the button at the right hand side, it remains fixed at a particular position. So this is what we call as the fixed property. This is the example of the fixed property. Now I'll show you the example of the sticky property. So I'll show you the example of the sticky property. Now in this web page, when we scroll, this is getting scrolled, and now see this area is fixed, the top is fixed, that is not scrolling. Okay, so it scrolls up to a certain point and then it stops. So that is done with the help of a sticky property. Okay, so this is the example of a sticky property. We'll come to the examples of and the codes of the sticky property once again. Now let us quickly see the example of relative and absolute property. So I'll show you one example of relative and absolute property, and then we'll come to the code one by one. So this is the example of relative and absolute property. See here, uh, this image is has a content Deepavali. Here it is written. Here it is written likes, and this is above this image. So it has a position uh, bottom left. It has a position top left, and then we have different things which will be covered in the code section. So let us come to the first example. Let us come to the fixed property example. And in fixed property example, here you see that what we have to do. Let us come to the output so that you understand what is to be designed. We'll design a card. This is a card. This is an example of fixed property. This is a card. It contains an image and the heading and some description. But apart from the card, there is a button which is fixed. So how to create a button with a fixed position, that we have to discuss. Now coming to the code, this button, create post, has a class called button. So the fixed property is set in the class btn. So I'll go to the style1.css, come to the style1.css, and here you see what we have used. That is the background color, the foreground color, the padding, the border radius. These are all there. What we have used here is position is fixed and bottom is 0 and right is 0. That means these are the three properties that is used to fix the position. So position, the value of the position property is fixed. And where will this button go? It will go to the bottom right. And what does this 0 mean? This 0 means its position at the bottom right. Now, if I don't use this margin, I remove this margin, and now I come to the output of this button. This is the fixed property example. And then let us see the output, how it is showing. See, it has no margin, so it is coming at the bottom. Bottom is 0, left is 0. So it is 0, 0. So it is coming at the bottom and at the right. So at the right, there is no gap. At the bottom, there is no gap because we have mentioned bottom is 0, and then we have used right is also 0. Now, to bring it to to have some gap, what we can use? We can use a margin property. So I'll come to the CSS, and here I'll give margin of 24 pixels. And when we give the margin of 24 pixels, and when we come to the fixed property example, and here you can see, excuse me, this is the margin on the right and on the bottom. So this is a card. This card can be scrolled because of it has data in it, which is more than the browser height. And so if we scroll the web page, the button is fixed to a particular position. So whenever we have to use the fixed position, then we can use the fixed position in this way. What are the things that is to be covered here, that is to be noted, which are important, is in the style property, you can see the position value is fixed, the bottom is 0, and the right is 0. Suppose I don't use a right. Okay, so what will happen? So it will be in the bottom. And now let us see where it goes. So by default, the button comes to the left. Okay. Now, suppose I want it in the top, on the top left or on the top right. Then what we can do? We can use the style property bottom instead of bottom, I can use the top property so that it goes to the top right. Now, if we see the example, coming to the fixed property example, and now when I show you the example in the output, you can see the bottom goes at the top position, top right position. So wherever you want, you can fix the element on a web page with the help of these CSS properties. These CSS properties are covered here. The position is fixed and the top and right is 0. So what we have to do whenever we use position, we set the position is fixed. It can be absolute, it can be relative, it can be sticky, and then we have top, bottom, right, and left to be used. 0 is the position at the top, right, and we can control the gap with the help of margin. And the other CSS is a card and the card image. The card is having width 600. The padding and the margin and font is getting used. So we are not concerned with these. These are just used to display the information in a border. And we are concerned with the button getting fixed to a particular position in our web page. So when we want the button to be fixed at a particular position, or any element to be fixed at a particular position, then we can use the position fixed, and then we can control it top, right, bottom, left, etc. And the margin padding can be used to adjust the gaps. Now coming to the second type of position, that is called the sticky position. Now in this sticky example, first I'll show you the output, then I'll explain the code. See, in this sticky example, when we scroll, this card gets fixed. This thing gets fixed. Okay, so we have this controlled with the help of a sticky position. So we have one card at the top, then we have this second card that gets fixed, and then we have third card. Let us come to the code. So I'll come to the code. This is the sticky property. So this is the first card with an image. This is the example of sticky property, and this is the second card. Now here, this second card has a class called add, and in this add class, we will be using the sticky property. And then we have a third card. So this is the third card, and this is the button which was used in the previous section. So we are concerned with this div. This div has a class called add, and this div gets sticked to a particular frame after it is scrolled. So how this is happening? This is happening with the style2.css. So style2.css has a add property, and in this add property, what we are writing is position is sticky, and where will this position stick? It will stick at the top. So it will stick at the top and the position will be sticky. So this is the same thing that we have used in the previous for fixed. Position was fixed and then we use top bottom. Similarly, here we are using position is sticky and then we are using the top. These are the two properties which are setting it as a sticky. So sticky is easy and simple. We have to use the position as a sticky and then top is 0. This can be controlled with width, padding, margin, etc. And if you have not gone through these properties, width, padding, margin, then you can watch the previous video. In the previous video, we have discussed how the width, padding, margin properties and border properties are used in the box model. So if you see our box model, I'll also add the link to the description for the box model. So those of you who have not covered the box model, you can first see that video so that you have a better understanding of this property, and then you can come to understand the position property position is sticky. So we have discussed two positions: position is fixed and position is sticky. Now we will be covering very important example, that is relative and absolute property. So for relative and absolute property, first I'll come to the theory of the relative and absolute property, and then we'll see the example. So the relative and absolute properties are used when we want one element inside another element. So there will be two elements. One is the container and the other is the content. The outer, the container, is relative and the inner is absolute. So you have to remember that the position for the outer element will be relative and position for the inner element will be absolute. So position for the inner element will be absolute and position for the outer element will be relative, and relative and absolute positions are used when we want one element inside another element. Now coming to the example here. Now, I'll show you the output first, then I'll explain it. See, in this example, we have a card, we have an image, and above this image, we have some text, we have some descriptions, and then we have a button. So all these are coming above this image. So this can be done with the help of position property. So how these position properties are used, let us come to the code. So in this web page, web content, you can see that we have a div class hero, then we have an image, then we have a div class hero content, and in hero content, we have a div with an icon, we have explore your fields now heading, then we have a description, and we have a button. So what are the CSS classes? There's a hero class that is important, then there's a hero content class that is important, and then there's a button white class. And these styles are mentioned in style 3. So coming fast to the style 3, let us see what is button. What is hero? So hero is the container, so the position is relative, simple. And the content is having the position is absolute, simple. And the position top is 0, so it will start from the top. From the top, we have given a margin of 24 pixels. So from top, there will a gap of 24 pixels. Position is absolute and top. Then there's a color. This color can be changed. If you want it in a different color, you can select any color of your choice that suits you. So if we make it this way, so what we have to understand here, that the container has a position relative. That's it. Container has the position relative. These have nothing to do with the position. And the content has the position absolute. So the content has the position absolute, and the content has the position absolute, and the container has the position relative. Now, if you remove these two positions, the position is relative and the position is absolute. If we remove these, and then we come to the code, and let's make it live. See how it is happening. Now this image is at the top, and then the content is coming at after the code. It is not coming in the container, but it is going outside the container. Now to bring this thing inside this image, what we have to do, we have to make this image as a relative and this as an absolute. So if we make it relative, then this all content will go inside it, and inside it we have to fix the position with the help of top, bottom, right, etc. margin. So Let us come to the code again. This is style 3. What we have to do here, we have this, the content is absolute and this is has to be relative. So this is relative. And now if I come here, I repeat once again, if you have not covered our previous section where we have used border, margin, padding, etc., please cover those and then you'll have a better understanding of this positions. See here, so this comes inside it. I'll come to another example. This is the relative absolute property example 2. And here in this, what we are doing, see, here again we have an image and inside the image, so this will be relative and this Diwali is has to be absolute, this has to be absolute. So I'll come to the Diwali CSS and then I'll come to the likes part. So coming back to the CSS. See, Diwali has the tag class and likes has the likes class, and these are inside the card header, and the card header has to be let us see how these things are written. So card header, let us see the card header. Card header is relative. Okay, why card header is relative? Because it is contained. Then tag is absolute and likes is absolute. So absolute top is 0 and absolute bottom is 0. For the likes, the bottom is 0. For here, it is top is 0. And remaining is the color, margin, etc. So what we have to understand here that the container will have relative property and then we'll have the position as absolute, position as absolute. So these are the things that we have to understand. Please go through these codes again 2-3 times so that you have a better understanding how the position are used. See, in this section, the card header class has a position relative, nothing is mentioned. Then the tag has a position is absolute and top is 0. See here. This has position top 0, this has position bottom 0, then the margins are used to decorate it properly. So this is how we can use the position property and we can design our beautiful web pages. I hope you enjoyed it thoroughly. Please do like, make some comment and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Thank you very much.